For quality professional development, teachers must consider the NCBTS, which are the established standards for good teaching in the Philippines. What is meant by the acronym NCBTS? National Competency-Based Teacher Standards. You are very much interested in quality professional development program for teachers. What characteristics should you look for? Responsive to identified teachers' needs. How do you know a program for teachers' professional development that meets high standards from those that does not? Quality professional development helps teachers to blank. Get intrinsically motivated to grow continuously. Once a teacher, forever a student. What does the statement imply about quality personal and professional development for teachers? It is continuing. To ensure high standards of teachers' personal and professional development, which measure must be implemented? Every teacher formulates his/her own professional development plan. And the implementation of what is learned in training must be monitored. Societal change requires continually deep-seated questions about good living. Which of these did Socrates recognize as the greatest of the human virtues? Moral wisdom. Which competencies are expected of BEd and BS Ed graduates? Higher level literacy and critical thinking and principled understanding of the learning processes and assuming the responsibility to sustain professional growth. Which of the following is best implied by quality and relevant teacher development initiatives? Lifelong learning. Teachers are required to make an individual plan for professional development, IPPD. This is based on the philosophy that the teacher is a lifelong learner. The NCBTS provides the steps for blank assessment in making the IPPD. Self. To ensure high standards of the teacher's personal and professional development, what tool/instrument was developed by the DEP-ED for self-assessment? TSNA. This self-assessment tool, which is used nationwide, is one of the bases in planning the blank training of teachers. School-based. The results of the LET revealed the low performance of future teachers. In April 2010, only 15% of the BEd and 25% of BS Ed graduates passed. What do the results imply? Review existing teacher education curriculum vis-a-vis TOS. The domain on social regard for learning in the NCBTS focuses on teachers' actions and demonstrating value for learning, which are the indicators for these actions. Model the value of punctuality and consider the influence of teachers' behavior on learners. The new performance appraisal system for teachers, PAST, is competency-based. What characterizes the formative developmental nature of PAST? Self-directed. Which are the job-embedded requirements for teachers and so must continuously develop themselves in these aspects? AOTA. Maintains updated pupil/student school records. And conducts action research and maintains harmonious relationship with stakeholders and channels and guide learners. The teacher performance results provide continual to professional development. Feedback. Which two competencies are demonstrated and practiced during the field study and practice teaching courses? Teaching assistance and interpersonal relationship. Which of these skills must a teacher develop that will enable him/her to look at problems as opportunities? Addressing problems as fast as possible. And remaining alert to the possibility and foster sense of accomplishment. As a professional teacher, you must be good at interactive communication. What does interactive communication include? AOTA. Person-to-person email correspondence and interaction through simulations and models and electronic mailing list, video conferencing, chat rooms and group interaction in virtual learning space or audio communications. In a knowledge-based society, teachers must be capable of effective communication. What does effective communication involve? Teaming, collaboration and interactive communication. International educators propose a definition of the term global competence. What is the most appropriate characteristic of a globally competent individual? Having an open mind while actively seeking to understand norms and work effectively outside one's environment. Which of the following may generate interpersonal relationships in the work environment? Off-site respites. What practices develop interpersonal sensitivity? Communicate programs/projects to stakeholders and give positive criticisms based on guidelines and communicate concerns/issues for improvement. The NCBTS domain on social regard for learning focuses on which indicators? Demonstrates punctuality and maintains appropriate appearance and makes use of various learning experiences and is careful about the effect of one's behavior on learners. Which NCBTS domain creates situations that encourage learners to use high-order thinking skills, HOTS? Curriculum. Which one describes one responsibility of a teacher in a school dominated by indigenous peoples, IP, children? AOTA. Point out the negative elements of their culture to help them improve. And help them realize the positive elements of their culture and make them feel proud about them. And teach basic concepts in the context of the IP culture. And show them other people's cultures. In an era of knowledge explosion, what is supposed to be every teacher's most important responsibility to maximize children's learning? Teach learners the skills on how to learn. And teach learners how to evaluate information. As a community leader, which one may a teacher not do? Makes herself aloof to ensure that her decisions will not be influenced by community politics. As an effective classroom manager, what should a teacher do? She uses instructional time wisely. And she puts to use available and appropriate materials. Alvin Toffler said, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." Based on this statement, what are the important responsibilities of the teacher? To enable learners to adapt to change and to equip them with skills to learn. In the midst of a highly pluralistic society, what type of learning environment is the responsibility of the teacher? Safe and secure. The professional teacher is not the sage on stage but the guide from the side. This implies that teachers act as facilitators of learning. A teacher is said to be a trustee of the cultural and educational heritage of the nation and is under obligation to transmit to learners such heritage. Which practice makes him/her fulfill such obligation? Study the life of Filipino heroes. It is the responsibility of every teacher to undergo annual medical checkup in the interest of the AOTA. Teacher and school and community and learner. Teachers often complain of numerous non-teaching assignments that adversely affect their teaching. Does this mean that teachers must be preoccupied only with teaching? No, because every teacher is expected to provide leadership and initiative in activities for the betterment of communities. Teacher Paz does not personally agree with one school policy. What is her professional responsibility? Make an honest effort to understand, support, and carry out the school policy even if she does not personally agree. In the context of constructivist learning transaction, the teacher as facilitator of learning engages in an instruction that is blank, flexible and creative. Global students learn with short bursts of energy. To maintain concentration they require frequent and intermittent breaks. Which two statements best describe a global teacher? Thinks and acts both locally and globally. A pupil whose mother is an OFW has been absent for the past 3 days. Considering the teacher's roles and responsibilities, what action will you take? Conduct home visitation. As a researcher, which may be a good problem for a teacher's action research to improve learning outcomes. Class Moleve's performance in NAT during the SY 2010 to 2011. How are schools influenced when parents' measure of excellent school is children's ability to read as early as pre-kindergarten? Focus on academics. To respond to the needs of industry, which one do schools focus on? Technical skills. The shooting incidents in school campuses abroad have made schools rethink of curriculum. Which changes are being introduced in schools to counteract school violence? Inclusion of socio-emotional teaching and the emphasis on the concept of competition against self and not against others. The wide acceptance of bottom-up management style has influenced schools to practice which management practice? Involvement of students, parents, teachers, and community in planning. In their desire to make schools perform, the DEPED then published the ranking of schools in NAT results nationwide. As an effect of this practice, what did schools tend to do? Conducted review classes for NAT at the expense of teaching and practiced the so-called teaching to the test. Large class size in congested cities is a common problem in our public school system. Which stopgap measures/s has schools taken? The conduct of morning and afternoon sessions. What does the acronym EFA imply to schools? Practice of inclusive education and the promotion of alternative learning systems. Which conclusion can be derived from the case of teacher Rita described below? Teacher Rita is the lone teacher in a stand-alone remote multi-grade school. Teacher Rita is the school head, the generalist teacher for all the subjects, the janitor, the secretary, the nurse rolled into one. The geographical location of a school has influence on the role of a teacher. Which recent action/s shows/s that political factors affect schools as agents of change? The introduction of mandated subjects such as RESOL in the curriculum and the turnover of daycare centers room DSWD to DEPED for supervision. In a Muslim area, what will a teacher refrain from doing as she teaches how to cook adobo to her class? She excludes pork from her adobo lesson. For what main reason are schools as change agents advised to offer courses that industries need? Economic. For more efficient and effective management of schools as agents of change, one proposal for the DEPED to do is to cluster remote stand-alone schools under one lead school head. Which factor has the strongest influence on this proposal? Geographical. Widespread abuse of Mother Earth prompted schools to teach sustainable development. Which one does this prove about schools? Environmental factors influence the school as an agent of change. Your class has several IP, indigenous peoples, children. Which one will facilitate pupils' learning? Make the IP children feel proud of themselves. Teacher Nanita discourages her students to watch TV excessively. The average student spends about 24 hours watching television in a week. According to research, how is learning affected by extensive TV viewing? Shorter attention span. The failure of independent study with most Filipino students may be attributed students' high degree of dependence on authority. With an increasing variety of family situations, a teacher needs to be careful not to inadvertently offend some students. The adoption of a national language by the 1981 Constitution is designed primarily to facilitate communication among diverse linguistic groups. What is the most effective way of modeling high social and academic expectations for all? Encourage internal and external stakeholders to articulate their expectations of the school. What characterizes a school as a learning community? Shared mission/vision, goals and values and commitment to continuous improvement and collective inquiry into best practices. Schools aiming to boost student learning work on a/n blank culture. Collaborative. What is the best meaning of collaboration in schools? It is working interdependently to analyze professional practice. Which of these statements is the effective way of communicating the vision-mission statement of the school? Align activities, program, and projects to the school vision mission. Which of the following is not a principle of sustainable development? Living according to each personal attitude and lifestyle. In 1990, a congressional commission to review and assess Philippine education, otherwise known as the EDCOM, was created by a joint resolution of Congress. What are the two principal reasons given by EDCOM for education? The country is not investing enough in the education system, and the education establishment is poorly managed. When enrollment is small in the rural elementary schools, 2 or 3 grade levels are combined in a class taught by one teacher. Multi-grade. Which is the most essential characteristic of a total quality school model? Continuous improvement. Which of the following interventions reduces stigma between social status and social selection in the educational system? Education Service Contracting Scheme. John Dewey's major contributions to the sociological foundations of education are the following except one. Which is the exception? Delete. What theory states that identical instructional environments, methods and resources may be effective for some learners and ineffective for others because of the differences in the learner's biological and developmental set of characteristics? Learning style theory. In a school where academic performance is low, which of these alternative actions is least effective? Putting up a functional educational management information system, EMIS. Which of these school practices helps create a positive learning climate? Encouraging everyone to participate in accomplishing school goals and objectives. Arrange the following according to Maslow's needs hierarchy. Health and safety, then peace and comfort, then recognition and prestige, then self-fulfillment of potential. Which of these is not a quality of an engaging learning environment? Centralized governance. Which of these is not in Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Performance. Which is not among the major targets of the child-friendly school system, CFSS? All grade 6 students pass the division, regional and national tests. Which of the following provisions guarantees accessible education for all? Establish and maintain a system of free public education in the elementary and high school levels. Which of the following can contribute to the provision of quality education? AOTA. Hire the best teacher applicants from the division pool. And provide adequate textbooks and other instructional materials. And construct classroom and laboratory rooms and maintain sanitary, safe, child-friendly, and conducive environment to learning. The vision of basic education in Bisra is to make every Filipino functionally literate. Which of the following operationally defines functional literacy? Able to read, write, compute, and apply these skills in their daily lives. Which of the following is not a domain of the competency-based standards for teachers? Resource planning. Special education celebrates its 100th year as a thrust of BLEPT. Meeting educational needs of gifted students is challenging. Which of these is not specialized program for the gifted? One curriculum fits all. Which principle is underscored in the overall efforts of the BLEPT to provide assistance and resources for preschool education? Early development is more critical than later development. Teachers should be encouraged to teach folk knowledge because this is in keeping with indigenization of the curriculum. Children learn how to open a coconut and other common chores in a farm. In this instance, culture is transmitted by immersion. Which of these activities indicates that teachers value their status as role models? Upholding the code of ethics. Which of these does not illustrate equality as a central theme of educational opportunity? Equity prevails within a given locality since local taxes provide support for schools. Which of the following statements is not true as regards the relationship between social class and social selection system? The social composition of a fourth-year class is similar to that of the first year. John Dewey's major contributions to the sociological foundations of education which are still very much recognized today are the following except one. True education is transmission of knowledge. In schools, particularly in the lower grades where children come from diverse backgrounds, teachers are expected to use varied approaches effectively. Which approach/ES would be appropriate for such diversity? Differentiated teaching approaches and a variety of instructional materials and multimedia materials. Critical thinking in recent years has become a concern in education not only in the Philippines but also the world over. The cognitive, affective, and psychomotor components are put to focus. Which of the following competencies clearly distinguish the critical thinker? Estimates and evaluates and hypothesizes and concludes. Inclusion is a basic right of every Filipino child as mandated in the Philippine Constitution, RA 7277 or the Magna Carta for Disabled Persons and EFA 2015. What fundamental changes have to be operationalized in inclusive education? Philosophy of education and relevant curriculum and mainstreaming and home study program. Which of the education provisions are contained in RA 7277 or the Magna Carta for Disabled Persons? Special education and access to education and assistance to disabled persons. An individual education plan, IEP, for a child with disability has to be prepared by the regular and special educators, parents, and medical specialists, if available. Which is the best reason for providing early intervention program to children with disabilities, ages 0 to 3 years old? Address developmental lag and prevent acquiring additional disabilities. Which of these is a teacher's acceptable view of change? Change is an opportunity. Read the text below. 16-year-old Giancarlo Dapul of Philippine Science High School. Which of the intelligences best characterizes Gian Dapul? Mathematical/musical/interpersonal. Read the text below. 16-year-old Giancarlo Dapul of Philippine Science High School. Which of the learner-centered psychological principles were not considered by the mathematics teacher when he gave the class 30 problems in 50 minutes? Cognitive and metacognitive and motivational and affective and developmental and social and individual difference factors. Read the text below. 16-year-old Giancarlo Dapul of Philippine Science High School. Which of the following topics may be the focus of discussion for inset so as the act committed by the mathematics teacher can be avoided? Facilitating learning and 4As.